and we're back with another simply delicious recipe, and this is what I call loaded hash brown casserole. Now, before I get to that stuff in the middle, I'm going to show you everything else we have. In this big silver bowl, I have a 12-ounce bag or a pound bag of hash browns, or you can cut them yourself if that's what you like. I have I believe this was 12 ounces of whipped cream cheese, and you want it to be whipped. You don't want the block stuff. It's just, I don't even like it. It's for nothing. It's hard. Here's my concoction: the half a teaspoon of black pepper, tablespoon of garlic powder, and a tablespoon of onion powder. I usually just put them together because there's no need to separate them. A tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce, a block of Colby Jack cheese, or whatever cheese you prefer. I just prefer this because it's mild and it has the flavors of the cheddar too. Okay, here we have about a 1/4 cup of sour cream and chopped green onions. And now this stuff here in the middle, this is a half a pack of fried bacon and onion. And what I did was I cut them small and I put them in my skillet and I fried them until they caramelized, see? And then I got it out of there, let it cool to room temperature or refrigerate it, take another 1/4 of a white onion and put it all in the food processor because you don't want big chunks of bacon, and it kind of just made a nice paste. So, and that's going to go in there with it. And you need your glass of red wine. That's me. So let's get started. Let me take a sip of this. Oh, so nice. Okay, so here we have that hash browns. I'm going to put the cream cheese, the 12 ounces of whipped cream cheese in there. And you want to use the whole 12 ounces. That would be the bigger one. Soy brand, whatever brand you use. And get those integrated first, because you put them all in there together, you're going to have spots of stuff. Kind of just... And you don't want to stir this, you want to fold it, because you don't want to break up the potatoes too much. And just fold it. And at least, you know, my potatoes are a little cool because we just came from the store. So my stuff's a little cool, but if you can do this stuff at room temperature, by all means do, because then you end up with a ball. That's good enough. And then the next thing that we're going to add, we're going to add this Worcestershire. Give it some looseness. It's a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce. Worcestershire. And don't worry, because however you put this in your pan, this is going to loosen up. If you're uncomfortable with this texture, I'll show you what to do when I'm done. Okay, so then you have the seasonings, which is the tablespoon of onion powder, a tablespoon of garlic powder, and half a teaspoon of black pepper. We like pepper. With this, I'm going to make some cube steaks and onions, and we'll get into that. Okay, just like that. I don't really care for the texture. Ooh, my eyes are burning. Onions. Now for your 1/4 cup of sour cream. And this is, all these ingredients just adds to the components of a loaded baked potato, except it's a casserole. And I'm not a casserole eater, and I don't really care for them, but this is really good. So to this, I'm going to add I'm going to fill one of those ramekins up of some milk to loosen it up some, because it is cold. And, there's no left, so there we go. Well, that's about, that's about one of those full ramekins, so about a 1/4 cup, because all that's going to dissipate, and that'll make it a little easier for you to stir. Now, I didn't add any salt to this, and I'll tell you why, because the cream cheese, between that and the bacon mixture and the cheese on the block, And you do want to use the cheese on the block. Don't get the stuff in the bag because it doesn't melt right. It's wrapped up with all kinds of stuff. It just don't do the right thing. So there you have that. Now see how loose that is? And it'll make it easier to stir. And then we're going to take this. We're going to put a little bit at a time. You don't want it all chunking up. So about half and half. If you don't, this is optional. So if you don't like the bacon and the onions, but you're definitely going to need a white onion anyway. So I just think that the bacon gives it extra flavor. And this is really good. The first time I made it, loved it. So this time I know he's really gonna like this. I already said he's hungry as hell. So, and let's just integrate that all the same as we just did the first half of it. That will be my oven, getting ready. Okay. I'm only going to use half of these because they're scallions, green onions, because you want to top it with a few fresh ones when it's done. Now the cheese. I'm going to use all but maybe a quarter of it. And go on the top. Oh, right there. That's good. And when I tell you guys this is delicious goodness, you thought macaroni and cheese was good. Honey, macaroni and cheese ain't got nothing on this. Because we're in the store battling. Because one of my girlfriends asked me to make macaroni and cheese. Which I will. But we don't really eat it here. We're potato eaters. And I said, well, why don't we make hash brown casserole, because I figured it would taste better, and we came to a conclusion on this. So now we have it all put together. That's what that is so good, cold too. I have it all put together. This is what it looks like. We're gonna get it put away in the casserole dish. I'm gonna show you what it looks like in the casserole dish. Let me go ahead and do that. Where did you put my dishes? Oh, that goes over there. Okay. All right. So for this dish, I'm going to use a little bit of shortening or an oil of anything, you know, just to coat it to where it kind of doesn't stick, and it'll have a brown bottom. Nice. See the oil? Super crap. You be making me feel conflicted, like we can't talk and stuff. Talking about something. No, just say, open your mouth. Just say it. All right. I'm sorry. This ain't no Food Network, nigga. Told you that. We barely making it. And just
I know your viewers like to hear my voice too. Hi, viewers.
YouTubers.
Fellow
YouTubers. Okay, so here. Now, generally, I would put some kind of fat in here, but because we use the bacon mush, or whatever you want to call it, we don't have to. And we're going to get this in here. Let's do half of it and spread that around, because that's pretty. Ooh, Lord, let me get a drink of that, honey. Must have a red wine. So good. If anybody wants to know what I'm drinking, hit me in the comments. Until then, don't let nobody know what's in your jelly jar. Oh, I love him, Pops. Such a shame, because I loved his YouTube cooking show. All right. And let's add the other. Let's add a little bit at a time. It's heavy. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing here. I know it looks crazy, but honey, when I tell y'all this is delicious, and you don't need to add no salt. No salt. Because the cream cheese and the cheese and the bacon takes care of that. I mean, it's got you. And make sure you put enough oil in the bottom of this pan, like you see around the sides a little bit. How it's kind of, you want that, because that's going to give you a nice brown bottom too. And when I first made this, because I never cook on recipe, because I always mess up when I do. But when I first made this, I didn't know what I was doing, and it came out fabulous. So, we're doing it again. And this is the last bit of it. There we go. Woo. All of it, honey, all of it. Playing games come from the depression. That's why. But it is a depression. As long as Trump is in office, it's a depression. Okay, so just kind of spread that right on around. Just like that. Okay. Mark, you want to hand me the, are we out of tinfoil?
Just about.
I need some. Well, I wish I would need that more. So can you see how much is left so I can cover this? There we have it. Ladies and gentlemen, some hash brown casserole. It's the bomb, bomb, bomb. Okay. Round. Oh, well, to hell. Make it work the best we can. Work with what we got. Now I'm going to top this cheese. I'm going to top it already with some cheese because I like my cheese bubbly brown. And you want to put this in your oven on 350, 400, whatever, each or, because I'm about to turn it up to 400 because I'm going to put on 400 for an hour because this ain't the same thing as skillet frying them. This is, that was some pretty soft cheese there on it. And just there you go. It's okay if it ain't evenly distributed because it's going to taste good all the same. So,
Is that maybe big enough?
Yeah. I know that's right. He went back in the refrigerator. Let me tell you what my husband just did. Because he went back in the refrigerator that we wrapped something up with a minute ago to get the foil that he already used to make it enough. So there's a God. Let's cover this up and there you have it. Superman. And we'll be back to you when this is done cooking. Or close to done. Because I'm going to clean up this chaotic mess here. Well, that's good enough. Covers up. Clean this up and we'll be back because I'm going to show you how I'm going to do my cube steak. This is the casserole completed. We're not going to cut into it just yet because I still have something to do. I have to cook the meat. So I'm going to move this to a side so it can rest and cool off because nobody is eating it like that. And now we have the cube steak. Now, here's what I did. Okay. I took bell pepper, red bell pepper, and green bell pepper, and about a half the white onion. I cut the meat up in just cubes. And I took, it's the alcohol, y'all. I took about a quarter cup of Worcestershire sauce. I used a teaspoon or a tablespoon of black pepper, a little bit of paprika, Mrs. Dash, garlic powder, onion powder, Italian seasoning. I put about 2 tablespoons of horseradish and about 1 tablespoon of Dijon mustard and a half a tablespoon of sriracha for a little extra spice. But as far as the seasonings go, the reason why I don't hardly ever have a recipe is because I kind of wing it. So, and I also use about a quarter cup of soy sauce. I am going to add another fluid to this, but right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in my skillet, because this is my rendition of peppered steak. So I'm going to put this in my cast iron skillet. I'm going to turn it on and get it nice and hot. This has been marinating for about an hour. So, you know, just let it kind of suck up this juice. Also, I put 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, cornstarch, and mixed it up. So there can be a nice light glaze rather than just have dry meat. So give me 1 second. And again, let me repeat those ingredients to you. Black pepper, paprika. I use a little bit of the table blend Mrs. Dash. Garlic powder, onion powder, Italian seasoning. 2 tablespoons of prepared horseradish. 1 tablespoon of Dijon and 1 tablespoon of sriracha. And oh yeah, let me not forget, I used a half a tablespoon of salt because this, unlike the potatoes, don't have all the extra stuff. And I'm also going to fry this in the onion flavored bacon grease that I cooked my bacon paste in. So I left that there so that I could do that. And we'll get this all prepared up. You want the vegetables, you'll see it when it's done, but you want the vegetables soft. And about halfway through the cooking process, I'm going to add about 2 cups of chicken broth. Or you can add beef broth, but chicken broth is what I have on hand, so that's what we're going to use. And you're just going to let it cook until it's tender. So, if you want to come back, I will show you in just a second. As you can see, it already has its own juices. Yeah, I cut my finger. Y'all see that? It already has its own juices, so I won't need much. But what I am going to use is just about a half a cup of chicken broth because I want that to cook down and reduce some. And I'm going to take some of these green onions because that's going to add flavor, and because I have some left over, why the hell not? So we're going to let that reduce down to about half. I'm going to turn it on probably medium high because the meat's done. You don't. And one thing about steak is if you overcook it, it starts to get this dry consistency. And I don't want my vegetables too overcooked, so we'll come back when it's completed and done. And this is the final product of hash brown casserole, loaded hash brown casserole, and peppered steak. So I tasted it already, just a little tiny piece because of course I couldn't help myself. But my husband has not tasted it, and he is the taster. So this is it. And like I said, just a little bit of cornstarch slurry with a little bit of cold water because cornstarch doesn't dissolve in heat. And then you dump it in, it'll thicken up. And you really wanted to have this just in case, you know, because beef can be dry. But this is a completed meal. You want to try it?
Oh, you know it.
Yeah. I'll leave it there. Okay. Yeah. Perfect bite too. Yeah. It's okay. Is it good?
That's good.
I haven't tasted it all together, but I'm hungry.
The hash browns
are they better than the last ones? Because of the bacon paste.
Some vegetable.
That's why I didn't put a side on it because it has so many vegetables everywhere else.
I find that little piece of meat.
Yeah, you like it?
I like it.
Yeah, I like wine. Yeah, I love wine. Well, that's it. That's all we have. And I have a special surprise for you guys. I don't know if I'm going to do it Saturday or Sunday, but you guys just stay tuned because you are going to love this, because we all know I'm incorporating sugar into my channel. So just stay tuned.